So I thought long and hard about what game we should play this time around. And I want to really break things up and not have like this, I don't know, I guess not predictable, but I want to cover a wide variety. And I figured now is the time to show you the ropes in a little game I like to call Magic the Gathering.
Didn't you say this is like the most complex card game ever made?
It's the most complex game, period. This has surpassed chess as the most complex game to play. Now, you can play it and not be this grandmaster or wizard or what have you. Like, you don't need to be well versed because it takes time to like learn things, and there's different formats, and some are easy, some are very, very much complex. So I'll give you a rundown of before we start playing, I'll give you a rundown of some of the mechanics. I'll give you a rundown of the basics and the different formats that there are. So first, we have Standard. Standard is what they call a rotating format. So Standard has a block of sets that are legal to play. As new sets come out, old sets get bumped out. So you can build a deck, and in a couple of months, it will change or cease to exist.
Months?
Yeah. Standard, they're trying to adjust Standard to make it more appealing because it is a rotating format. So they just released a set called Foundations. That's going to be a standard legal set, I believe they said, for like years. So they're trying, like, the thing about Standard is, I mean, Magic cards are expensive. So you need the dual lands to play, whether it's the Scry lands, the Pain lands, Shock lands, fetch. Like, you need your mana to be online, and what I mean by that is you're playing more than one color most of the time in decks. So you have dual lands, which are dual colored lands. Some you have tri-colored lands. So you have the triomes and stuff like that. So what makes Standard tough is most of the time your mana base is where most of your money is going towards. So what do you do?
Go ahead. You can keep talking. I mean, there's nothing to see here.
So So it makes it expensive to keep up with because it rotates out. So
Right.
a lot of people choose to play what are called eternal formats. So what eternal formats are new sets get released, and those cards are then legal in that set, but they have a limit on what is legal. So with a format called Modern, I believe it's 5th edition forward. So any set that's released after 5th edition is legal in Modern. Which is great because you don't have to worry about rotation. So when you buy your mana base, unless new stuff comes out that makes yours obsolete, you're fine. So, I mean, cards get banned, things like that happen, like any game. So,
Are there more generations coming out?
what do you mean? Like more
you
sets?
You said 5th generation
So
forward.
it's 5th edition. So that's
So what's the current edition?
So they don't release it by that now. It's just like Foundations was the new set, Innistrad, and like they name the sets based off of like the plane that they're from, because there is a ongoing story within like the releases.
So is Modern just like always 5th edition? So it's not really Modern?
Well,
But-
it is because it's like Foundations is legal in Modern. The next set that comes out will be legal in Modern. The next set that comes out will be legal in Modern.
Right.
Every release, but it's like you're not going to have a set that rotates out.
But at some point, 5th edition is going to be old as shit.
But it's
And
never
still
never
be in
going to
Modern.
always going to be in Modern. They drew the line. So it's not a rotating format.
So instead of saying Modern, it's more accurate to say not Legacy. But
Well, there is a format called Legacy.
imagine
Legacy is, you want to talk about expensive, Legacy is one of the most expensive formats to play. You need probably about, each deck is probably running you about $20,000. Because you have to have dual lands, which are 5 to 1,000 or more. You have specialty things that you have to... Okay, Andy, they get it. You have to have there's specialty cards that are old, that are very limited print, that drive these prices up. So Legacy is like, you have to be a special kind of person to play Legacy. One, you have to have a shitload of money or print your deck from a printer.
you can do that.
You can print like, you see that box right up there?
Mm-hmm.
There's printed cards in there.
Mm.
So they're called proxies. So you can just put it in its place if you don't have that card. So you can play the deck, get with your friends, get a feel for it. If it's something you want to play, you can build it and pay your money, or you can be like, nah, it's not for me.
So wait a minute, let me get this straight. I can go grab a scan of like the most valuable rare card ever and print it and play it.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
I mean, it's not, because you, like, if you want to just play the decks with a group of friends, like you just have this play group, you all get together every Wednesday night and you all sit down and you just play Magic, and you just want to play any format that you want to play, any deck, it makes sense. Because if you did that in paper and built them and had the real cards, you have to have a shitload of money.
Unless you print them all.
Well, that's the point of printing them, is so you don't have to spend the money if you don't want to spend the money. But if you go to competitive tournaments and stuff, you have to have the real cards.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to have the
So
real
it has
cards.
to be real at the
At the
I
tournaments.
misunderstood
Yeah.
that then. I took it as like,
Now-
show up with the...
Now, some tournaments, like I think Vintage is another format, and that is like $50,000 to $100,000 decks.
Is that... How does that...
Vintage
like,
is-
Legacy and Vintage are...
So Legacy, I forget the cutoff for Legacy, but
What's the cutoff?
Vintage goes back to like the very beginning. Like you have the Power 9 cards, so Black Lotus and the Moxen and stuff like really, really high power level cards you can play. Now they're limited to the amounts you can play in Vintage, but Vintage is like, you have to have a very high level of understanding of Magic to be able to even think about playing Vintage. It is a very, very difficult format. It is very high level, very high power level, and it is just a whole nother beast. Not many people really play Vintage. So,
I think that has more to do with the price tag.
well,
than the-
yes, but still, it's just not really like super appealing to a lot of people. So those are like the main constructed formats of like where Magic is played. Now you have what I would call specialty formats. So Commander. So Commander is 99 cards, all singleton. You can't have any duplicates in your deck unless it's a basic land. You have a commander. So you have this special zone on the board where your commander sits. You can cast him at any time from that zone to the battlefield. Then when your commander gets, killed or dies in battle or whatever, gets removed from the board. You can put it back to your command zone, and now you get a tax put on the casting cost. So if you play, a 7-mana commander, it gets killed. Now it costs even more to cast, and it goes up each time it dies. Commander is a very, very well-loved format. There are a lot of casual players that choose to play Commander. That's their go-to. So you have Commander, and then you have what's called CEDH. So people call Commander EDH. That's just, I guess, their different name for it. I don't know why they call it EDH, but they have CEDH, which is competitive Commander, where you are playing busted combos, and it's not fun. Basically, it's fun if you're doing the things if you're doing the comboing, you're having all the fun. But if you're the one watching the combo, you're not having fun. If you understand the game and you have a select play group that plays CEDH, you could probably have fun with it. Casual Commander is really cool because you get to it tickles everybody's fancy of what they like about the world of Magic the Gathering. You have elves and zombies and dragons and cats and dogs, and you can build these tribal decks where you can just throw all these dogs that you like in a deck and play them, or you can make a zombie deck, and it does something for those casual players that just are attracted to that kind of thing and the deck building.
Are they eating the cats and eating the dogs? Sorry, I had to. Do I need to know all that to do this?
No, I'm just giving you a rundown of basically what different styles, different formats, just stuff before we dive in.
I love you. For the sake of all things holy, do not go into teaching.
Okay.
You're good at it? It's overwhelming.
This is more than just teaching. This is just giving you a brief history.
I'm trying here.
So you have Commander.
Oh, we're not done with that.
You have what's called Pauper. Pauper is another format that's really fun for the casual players. It's all commons and uncommons.
Is there a prince?
What?
To go with the pauper?
I don't get it.
Prince and the pauper?
Nope. No, never.
No, you're more of a Princess and the Pea kind of guy. So continue.
So Pauper is all commons. That's it. So the power level, you still get a good power level, but you're playing with very I wouldn't say mediocre cards, but it's affordable. Your decks are $50. It's so cheap. $50 to $100 per deck. It's so cheap.
I have never spent $50 on a deck of cards in my life, so I mean.
But Pauper is really fun because you get to play. You get a high power level of Magic without it being busted.
Was that a pun?
What was did I miss the pun?
A high power level of Magic, of the game or of I'm sorry, I don't of the game or of actual. Ooh,
yeah, you actually start to gain powers,
Shit, count me in. More on that.
So Pauper's very appealing for people who like to build a bunch of decks and play and don't have to spend a ton of money. Because Pauper's
Pauper's for the people who want to just bitch out a little bit and have fun.
Well, yeah, but it's just another way to play. You get to play with cards that you don't normally get to play with in other formats because they're not powerful enough or they're not good enough with other cards. So then you can draft. So draft, another thing that people really enjoy doing. I am not good at drafting. I am terrible at draft. I am a constructed guy the whole way. If I have to draft, I'm semi-miserable. Some of it's fun, like these special sets, like the Masters sets and like weird little sets like that, but
How many cards are in a set?
depends.
So how many cards do you have to draft?
So you get 3 packs,
How many cards are in a pack?
15,
So it's 45 cards.
roughly. 15?
So
I think it's 15.
you sit there and draft 45 cards before you play?
Okay, so you have 3 packs. You have about 8 people in a pod. Everybody opens a pack. They look at their pack. They pick what they think is the best card for them. You put it face down. You pass it to the left. So everybody passes their pack to the left. You pick up. You take what you think is good, put it down, pass to the left. Until all the cards are drawn, then you open your second pack. You do the same thing. And then I think the last pack you pass to the right.
And 20 minutes later, you're ready to play.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to waste 20 minutes.
So there is like it does get complex because you have to think about what the person on your left, what the person on your right, what colors they're drafting. So if you pick up, like if you're picking up these packs and you're like, wow, there's no blue cards in here, there's no red cards in here. I was planning on drafting red cards because I had a really busted card. I think I'm going to have to make the switch. So you have to switch colors mid-pack to make sure that your deck can actually function and is actually powerful enough to compete with other people. So there is a lot that goes into drafting, which is why a lot of people are drawn to it. So you draft the 3 packs. You have lands that you put in. So out of your cards, you just pick the cards. Your lands are free. So you choose. You have to. Normally, it's like 15 to 17 lands, and it's a 40-card deck. So you usually get like 25 playables, 23 to 25 playables, and then you battle it out. It's a fun format because you get to play with cards that you don't get to play with normally. But it's a challenge because you have to have a wide knowledge of the set, the mechanics that are in the set, what works, what colors work with each other, what don't, what colors you can combine, what colors you can't. It's very intricate. But I'm really bad at it because it's tough. So when you look at super high level Magic, like the world champion players, when they're having like big tournaments, the formats are either standard, modern, pioneer, and there's draft. So pioneer is another format that's relatively new. So what pioneer is it's, think of it as modern light. So a thing about modern and these eternal formats, they have a thing called fetch lands. Fetch lands, you pay a life, sacrifice it, you go to your deck, get a land out, shuffle, put it down. If you're looking at gameplay and you're watching people play, there's a lot of shuffling. Pioneer said, fetch lands, banned. A lot less shuffling involved in the format, which is good for people who are watching. It's a lot easier to watch, a lot less likely for people to try and cheat. So I really like, I think Pioneer is probably my favorite format. It used to be Modern, but Modern kind of went a little bit too high level. But Pioneer is like right where I like to be, like power level. It's, you get to play good cards, powerful cards, do powerful things, but it's a lot easier to digest, especially as a new player. So what I'm going to show you some different formats on Arena. So you'll see Explorer as the format. Explorer is basically Pioneer on Arena. Pretty much, because they don't have all of the cards that are legal in Pioneer on Arena. So Explorer is basically Pioneer. There is a format called Brawl. Brawl is Commander on Magic Arena. That's basically what it is. So basic mechanics of the game is there are what is the word I'm looking for? There are like phases of your turn. So there is the upkeep. So before the upkeep, you have your untap, where you untap your lands, untap anything that's tapped. You have your upkeep. That is before you draw your card. During your upkeep, the opposite player can play instants. Come on. The other player can play instants, activate abilities, things like that during your upkeep step. Then you have your draw step, where you're drawing your card. You have main phase 1, where you can play a land, you can play your spells, you can play your creatures, etc. Then you have the beginning of combat, where you're declaring if you want to attack with anything. Then you have the combat step, where you're actively in combat. You have declared your attackers. Your opponent can then interact with anything. The damage step, that is when damage happens. Then there is main phase 2, where if you wanted to play anything that you didn't play in your main phase 1, you can do that. You can play a land in main phase 2, but you can only play one land per turn. So you can choose to do it main phase 1 or main phase 2. When you're done, it is the end step. During the end step, that is before you pass the turn. So any end of turn things that your opponent wants to play, any instants, activated abilities, etc., they can do. You can play one land per turn. There are creatures. You can only play creatures in your main phase, unless they have flash. If they have flash, then you can play them at any point. There are sorceries. Those can only be played during main phases. There are instants. Instants can be played at any time. There are artifacts and enchantments. Those are played on main phases unless they have flash. Your lands, 1 per turn. I think I said that already. You draw 7 cards. Then you decide if you want to mulligan, if you don't like it. If you don't have lands and spells, you don't have the main cards in your deck that make your deck do what it does, you can choose to mulligan, shuffle it back in, draw 7 more cards. If you then like that, you can put one back on the bottom of your library. So you have your deck. Underneath your deck, you have your graveyard. That's where all your cards go when they die. You can play some cards you can play from your graveyard. You have an exile zone, which is a special way that it's separate from your discard and your graveyard. Your exile zone, you can play certain cards from exile, but when mostly exiled cards, they're gone. They are gone for good. You have your lands and everything, so that should give you a good understanding of the basics of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try this again.
How does it feel to lose?
So, like I said, aggro deck is the easiest type of deck for a new player to play because you're just trying to kill your opponent. That's all you're trying to do. Play things as fast as possible, get them dead. That's it. So, there are different styles of deck. I'll I'll say them.
Is that a freaking hamster?
Yeah. So I look. Here's my 7 cards. So I have spells I can play. I have the lands to play them. I can keep this hand. So I will keep. So then I go first. So I can this land here. I can pay 2 life, and it'll come in untapped.
Are you a weird purple cat with multiple eyes?
No, that's just my pet. So I have an untapped mountain that doesn't cost me anything to play untapped. So I'm going to do that. Now I have this I can cast, but it's an instant, so I can cast it whenever. So I want to react to what my opponent's doing. I don't know what they're playing. Let's see what they're doing. So he played a Temple Garden tapped, which puts me thinking that he's playing a deck called Angels, which is not the deck we want to play against because they gain a shitload of life. So I cast a spell, deal 2 damage to him. If it dealt damage to a player, I can scry 1. So scry is where I look at the top card. I can choose to put it on the bottom, or I can keep it on the top. This I don't really think we want because a bunch of our cards are 2 mana spells, so it's mana efficient to just see if we can maybe draw a creature, put on a little bit more pressure, which we didn't. So we will pay 2 life, let that come in untapped, and see what they're going to do. They're probably going to play a creature, I would say Bishop of Wings.
I just want to point out that you chose to go bottom.
So Bishop of Wings, that is a problem. See, it's 1 attack, 4 toughness. 4 toughness is the damage it takes to kill it. So I need to deal 4 damage to it to kill it. So this card, whenever an angel that they control enters, they gain 4 life. That's bad for us. We don't like that. We want that to go away. So we're going to cast this, deal 4 to them. Be a mana efficient Searing Blood. So, okay. So we're going to play this untapped. So we're paying 2 life. So, ugh. I don't think we can. We can't kill that this turn, unfortunately, because this has a mechanic called Spectacle. So if I can deal damage to them this turn, I can play this card for 1 mana rather than 3 mana. So that would be really nice if I had something to ping them for one mana, but I don't. So I can't kill that. So I'm just going to see what they do. And they're going to gain 4 life. They're probably going to play Righteous Valkyrie. Or Resplendent Angel. So there's Righteous Valkyrie. So they're going to gain 4 life. This card is bad for us as well. Because when an angel enters the battlefield, they gain 4 life from the bishop, and they gain life equal to the creature's toughness from this thing. And it has 4 toughness. So that's bad for us. This is really bad for us. We probably lose this game, but we shall see. So we are going to just Boros Charm them. 4 damage. And we drew a Skewer. So that's just really bad for us. So we didn't have a land, so we're behind on mana now. So now we have 3 lands. If I pass the turn, if they have another land, they have 4 lands, so we are behind. And we are really far behind now because we have a bunch of we can double spell here, but it's not good for us because we can Lightning Helix, but we can't Lightning Helix one of these and also cast this for 1 mana because they're not taking damage. So we basically just hope and pray they don't have something, which they probably do. So they have the Resplendent Angel. We just concede. We just concede here. What this card does, so when this enters, they gain 4 life and they gain 3 life. So they gain 7 life. This card says when you gain 5 or more life on your turn, you put a 4/4 angel into play. So then that comes in, they gain 8 more life. So they just gain a shit ton of life, and our deck can't.
There's more honor, you
Our
bitch.
deck can't.
I don't
beat that.
care if you can win. There's more honor in dying on the battlefield.
So there is a player that does not concede. But generally in Magic, if you are beaten and you know you are beaten, and it is just a casual game, just concede.
I will never play this game. I do not support.
You don't have to. You don't have. You're not being told. Like, I could have definitely played more, but
I don't support the idea of I mean, software development. We're all about agile. We're all about being efficient with time. I get it. If you know you're beat, just be respectful of everybody's time.
that's
Don't waste
basically what that is.
But
Especially in a tournament setting.
so that's one thing. In competition,
So
we die on this hill.
So you just know that this deck can't beat that much life gain. You just cannot do it.
You still die on that hill.
So this hand, I have 1 land and a bunch of spells. This is a mulligan because I have a bunch of 3 mana, a 2 mana spell, and 2 1 mana spells. I can gamble it since they're on the play and I'm on the draw, so I get to draw a card. But that's what we call greedy. And you get punished for being greedy. So we mulligan. So
I
now,
think they should relabel that button, "Are you a little bitch?"
So now we have spells, we have lands, we can keep this. Now we get to put a card back, which is probably...
For your mulligan?
Yeah. So we put that card back.
Yeah. Now you're going to pay for it.
So now we have 6 cards in hand, but we're on the draw. So this tells me that they're playing a deck called Greasefang. So they're a little bit more aggressive. Doesn't matter what land we play because we can't play any spells. So, and all of them come in untapped, so it doesn't matter. So what their deck is trying to do is trying to discard this card here. So they play a card called Greasefang. It's a creature. When they play it during the beginning of combat, you get to take this card, put it into play. This is a vehicle. So it's an artifact where you can crew it. So you take Greasefang, you tap it. This becomes a creature. When this attacks, you get 2 4/4 angels. So you're attacking for 13. So that is bad for us. And I think if they have Greasefang, we lose. So we will see what they have.
Hi, McTavish. Here at the World Magic Championships.
Okay, they don't have Greasefang. So what we do is we Searing Blood this, because that is the highest damage that we're going to be taking. This we don't want to kill because it mills them 3 cards, which is beneficial for them. Milling is taking cards from your top, putting them in your graveyard. So we are going to kill this, and when that dies, we get to deal 3 damage to them. So that is good for us.
So
there's an argument for not doing that during combat, and we could do that main fit. What the hell? Okay. That's different. Never seen a list play this card. That's... Yikes. So... That's not good. That's a lot of damage.
You've been thinking you knew. He didn't know.
That's a lot of damage.
He got surprised.
So we could cast this for 1 to deal 2 damage to them, scry, and then we could cast this to exile cards to play them. I think that's what we're gonna do. So there's a Lightning Helix. So Lightning Helix isn't really what we want because that Regisaur is going to be a big problem and kill us much before then. So now we are going to light up the stage. So we exile these 2 cards so we can play these next turn from exile. We have to play one of them.
You're running out of time there, my
Or
boy.
no, we can play both. So we just pass the turn. So during their upkeep, they have to discard a card, or else this dies. I'm pretty sure. I think.
Everything dies.
Maybe not. I don't remember.
Everything doesn't die.
No, it doesn't die. They just get a 7/6. So they're casting this card. So this says choose one or more. So if you discard a card, you get to choose more. So we're showing them our hand. They get to choose a card, and we discard it. We only have one card to discard, and that's a Skullcrack. So that doesn't matter. Not really relevant. We need a deal 3 damage card to a creature. Because if we can... no, we need more than... Wait, no, that doesn't even do it. I think we just lose. Because if we have a deal 3... So, here's where I think we... No, this deals 2, this deals 2, so it's 4. So we... 1, 2... 2, 4... Okay, so no, we take 8. Let's take 8. So we need we need at least a 1 mana... Okay, we're just dead. So...
Hey!
Play this... We Searing Blood this. So they take 3. And we play with fire them.
Maybe we should take a trip down to the old distillery.
And we put that on the bottom because we don't want Skullcrack.
There you go, picking bottom again.
So we take 8, we go to 1. That is if they don't have a spell that makes us lose life. So we're at 1.
Well, that's
So
a
we
spell that
can't
makes
we
you
can't
lose
even
life.
tap this land to make a red. Oh, they have another one? Okay. Well, we just lose.
You're fucked.
Yeah. So here we'll play it
No,
out.
you're supposed to concede, remember?
So we deal damage. Sure, we'll keep that at the top. And we just die. So then they attack us and we die.
-14.
All right, so we're dead. I will say this aggro deck is not quite the best in this format.
You can say it better than that.
So, all right, I will play a different deck for the format. So I will play a deck I really like, and it's called Jund Food. Jund is a color combination of red, black, and green. So that's what that is called.
In Magic Land?
Like the combination of colors. It's called Jund. So there's Jund, there's Jeskai. Jeskai is red, white, and blue. There's Sultai, which is
No, that's American.
blue, black, and green. There's Naya, which is red, green, and white.
Are these all constructs of Magic? Like they're naming the colors, the combinations of colors?
Just the 2 mana combos and the 3 mana combos.
So they have colors.
So it's Naya, Jund. Then like dual combinations are Izzet, Golgari,
You're not going to admit it, are you?
Azorius.
They're making up colors.
No, it's like factions. It's like factions.
And the colors
basically.
are representative of which faction it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I
I think they're clans.
Jund food?
So food is a mechanic in the game.
Really?
So you get a token. So the token is a food token. You can sacrifice that food token and gain 3 life. You pay 2, sacrifice it, you gain 3 life.
Sounds like my future.
So basically what my deck wants to do is it wants to play a card called Scavenger's I forget the Scavenger's Bandit, I think is what it's called. So what that does is when a creature of mine dies, I get to create a food token. If I level it up, every time I sacrifice a permanent, like a creature or a token or a land, I get to mill 2 cards. And I want cards in my graveyard. So this match is taking 4.
So, yeah.
So
I mean, you said sacrifice.
yes. So then the last upgrade for that is where I can sacrifice 3 permanents and I can put a creature from my graveyard into play. So there's a card called, I forget, it's Yagra. So what that card does is it turns all creatures on the battlefield into food. So they're also food tokens. So I play a card called Cauldron Familiar. So when it comes into play, you lose a life, I gain a life. I can play those from my graveyard if I sacrifice a food token. So what I want is I want a Cauldron Familiar on the battlefield. I want a Cauldron Familiar in the graveyard. With Yagra in play, I can then sacrifice the one Cauldron Familiar to play the other Cauldron Familiar. And I can just do that until I deal enough damage to you. So it's a combo. It's a loop. And it's really hard to interact with because anytime they want to interact, I can then respond by continuing the combo. So there are what's called like loops where it's an infinite loop. So it just goes infinite. Which most people will see and they'll be like, okay, yep, I see it. You have it. You know how it works. I concede. But there are also people that are like, go ahead. Show me the loop. They'll make the player do it to a certain extent to be like, oh, okay, like I lose. I see. Magic Arena, what's going on?
I know a couple people who have made pretty significant sacrifices.
Yeah, me.
Oh, we're going there. Okay.
All right, we'll come back to when Magic Arena decides it wants to work. I'll tell you other different styles of decks. So there's control decks, where you just want to control what your opponent's doing. Your deck is built with counter spells, where you can counter their spell while it's on what's called the stack, which is the most complex part of Magic, is when you get into the stack. I will explain the stack here for you. I'm just going to close Magic Arena and open it back up. So what the stack is, it's the way that... So it's like, think of it as stacks. So you cast a spell, goes on the stack. I counter that spell, that goes on the stack. You play another spell in response to my counter spell, that goes on the stack. I play another spell that goes on the stack. So we have 4 spells on the stack. It resolves like this. So let's say you play a creature, I play a counterspell. You play a counterspell, and then I play a counterspell. So we're fighting over the resolution of this creature. So your spell, my counterspell, your counterspell, my counterspell. My counterspell resolves, countering this spell. That then falls off the stack. We are now back to my original counterspell and your creature. My counterspell counters your creature, and they resolve. So your creature then goes to your graveyard because it is now off the stack. It got countered.
So it's a cascading resolve.
Kind of, yes. And there's when you're a really high level Magic player, you know how to abuse the stack. And like
Probably not a good word to use online.
Well, it's basically what you're doing is like, you're like, okay, you're thinking in your head like, if I try to kill his creature now, he can respond with things. If I try to kill it during this time, he can't respond.
So you know how to leverage.
You know how to leverage the stack. Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's see if this wants to work now.
Because I'm about to show you abuse.
So my deck that we're playing is it would be called a combo deck. So you're just trying to get to that combo.
Like a burger and fries.
So a lot of combo decks are like, if you're not doing the combo, you can't win. You just kind of flounder, and you don't really get to play Magic. This kind of acts as what they call a mid-range, where you get to like the mid-game, and you have creatures, you have things you can do, and you can just kind of attack and like leverage that to win the game. So you don't have to do the combo. You can win just by playing spells, playing creatures, attacking, etc.
I see. I think you're going to be waiting a while.
I don't know why this is acting up. There we go.
Your internet okay? Oh, shit.
It should be.
Fuck. I was excited about playing chess. You said chess. I was like, oh, we're going to play chess tonight. Then this.
I didn't say we were playing chess tonight.
You said the word chess. It got me excited.
All right, so we have 3 lands. We have one of the what would be called combo pieces.
Say that again?
We have one of the combo pieces.
No, before that.
3 lands.
Land.
Lands.
Land.
Land.
There's a fucking D on the end.
We have 2 removal spells, and we have this. So it's not the greatest, but it's something.
That's dog shit.
So I think it's good enough to keep it.
You got what the?
Because what we can do is we go Cauldron Familiar, drain them, gain 1. Then if they don't kill this, we get to Deadly Dispute, which sacrifices this. We draw 2 cards, we get a treasure token. So we're ahead on mana, so they're probably going to kill it. So we don't get to do that. Oh, no, never mind. We do get to do that. Sweet. Okay, so we play this, pay 2 life. We just Deadly Dispute. Well, hold on. No. Let's see if they want to trade. So attacking with them having a blocker, I'm offering a trade. So if they want to trade, maybe I consider not casting this, even though I know I'm going to cast it. But if they don't block and they're just like, sure, I'll take 1. Now I get to do a free point. Like, look, they didn't block, so I get a free point of damage in, which could matter. So now we Deadly Dispute. We sacrifice this. We can play this from our graveyard if we have food tokens, which is good. So we draw 2 cards, so that's cool. So now we have this card, which I can gain control of one of their creatures until an end of turn, and I get to attack them with it, so that they're probably going to ramp this up with some cards, so we might get to have some fun, but we're probably just going to kill it, because a treasure token, we sacrifice it for a mana, so we get to Fatal Push it, which kills that, which is what we want to do so we don't die. And they have little emotes here where you can chat, like, oops, nice, hello, your go, good game. When he kept saying your go, he was getting mad that I was taking so long. I don't know what deck he's playing, but...
Chaffin's deck sealant, buddy.
So now I'm just going to take 1. So now we're just going to Fatal Push this now.
Can't.
So we just try and Fatal Push that now. They play a Colossus Hammer. Okay. Oh, that's gross. What? Okay, so I'll explain what just happened there. So this creature, when it dies, it deals damage to it equal to its power to each opponent. This Colossus Hammer gives it +10/+10. So what they did was this card allows you to flash this in, and then when this enters, you attach it. So it just domed us for a bunch. That was sickening.
Yeah, you kind of look like you might get beat.
I don't know. This is what's called a glass cannon deck. This is probably not as glass cannon, but oh my god. Okay. Well, do we discard? Yeah, we discard this. Do we discard this? Yeah, because we're just going to kill that creature anyway. So we discard those. We draw 2 cards. Okay. So Scavenger's Talent. That's what it's called, not Scavenger's Bandit. So we are fatal pushing that because that is not what we want to see. So that goes. Now we...
I thought you get rid of that.
Huh?
Oh, you discard that.
So this stays on the field, so you can attach it to a creature, and when that creature dies, it just falls off of it. So we want to play this because that is a key card for our deck. And so is this. So Witch's Oven combos with Cauldron Familiar. We can just play this tap because we don't need that mana right now. And we can attack for 2. We get a treasure token every time this attacks, which gives us another mana. And what Witch's Oven does is I can sacrifice a creature and I create a food token. So I can sack this to get a food token, and then I could play this at the end of turn by sacrificing that food token.
Okay, Terrell Suggs.
So this is another thing where when it dies, it deals damage to any target. So that's semi-scary. So that flips. This is a companion. Think of it as kind of like a commander almost, but you pay 3 to put it into your hand, and then you pay the mana cost, which for this one it's 4 and a green or a red. So I think we want to Deadly Dispute here, but we want to level this up. So we have 4, 5 mana. So we want to level this up. We want to cast the Cauldron Familiar. So by doing that, we can Deadly Dispute to dig through our deck to try and find a removal spell for this, because we're scared of that because of this. So we are going to sacrifice the Cauldron Familiar. So with leveling this up, we now mill 2, which is good. And we get to mill 2 again because we sacrificed the treasure token. And we didn't draw a removal spell, so we get to play a land. So now we have a food token and a treasure token. So we're going to attack for 2 because they're not going to block, because that's not what their deck's trying to do. So now we can play this if we want to, which I kind of want to. Actually, what did we mill here? So we milled a Mayhem Devil, okay, so here's where things get complex. So I see the Mayhem Devil in my graveyard. So I level this up to the level 3, and I get to mill 2 other cards. So I'll mill 2 cards, or 4 cards. So see how they're getting mad because I'm taking so long. So Mayhem Devil is an interesting card here because it kills this, which is what we're trying to do. So I'm going to put Cauldron Familiar into play by sacrificing that food token. And I'm going to mill 2 cards. So I have 3 Cauldron Familiars in my graveyard, which is nice. So this, I get to sacrifice 3 non-land permanents. So I'm sacking all 3 of those creatures to bring back Mayhem Devil. So Mayhem Devil comes in. I get to mill 6 cards because I sacrificed 3 permanents. So with Mayhem Devil, now I can just choose to sacrifice it, and it deals 1 damage to that creature. So now we don't have to worry about getting domed by that hammer. And we get to put Cauldron Familiar into play. And he is just spamming Yurgo. He's very salty. So now we have no cards in hand. We can play these cards from our graveyard if we choose to. He is very salty, so he's just going to spam Yurgo. Okay, so now we just play this Cauldron, or this Mayhem Devil. We Witch's Oven the Cauldron Familiar, and they just concede because they know they can't win. So his deck was basically what I would call a Glass Cannon combo deck, where he just wants to do that Colossus Hammer on a creature and dome you for a bunch of damage. And if he can't do that, where you're just pinging his creatures, he just can't play Magic. He just doesn't get to play the game. And we just, like, with that deck that I was just playing there, like, there's a lot of what's called utility with that deck, where there's a lot of things to think about and little things that you can miss and note. Like, how we didn't draw the removal spell, and I really wanted a removal spell, but I realized, I can level up that to return the Mayhem Devil by sacking 3 creatures. So I sacrificed those 3 creatures. I got the Mayhem Devil. Now I had to sacrifice the Mayhem Devil to ping his creature to kill it. But you have to, like, know these little intricacies of some of these decks. And some of them are very complex. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things to see. There's a lot of things to miss. Like, there's a lot to that deck where I don't even see it. And it's like a line that I could, like, they call it a line you could take. So it's like, you had this play, you had this play, you had this play, you had this play. Like, 4 lines that you could have taken there, and they would have led you to different outcomes, which will naturally decide whether or not you win or lose the game.
We're just going to call you Sackboy.
It's a shortening sacrifice.
The man formerly known as Sackboy.
So now I will show you Brawl, which is basically Commander. So my deck here it's the Gitrog monster. So what Gitrog monster does is it wants to do things with lands. And this hand is absolutely bullshit. So lands, spells, and things to do. So I had a free mulligan, so I don't have to discard a card or put a card on the bottom of my library here. So I'll just keep it. So what my deck wants to do is it wants to play a shit ton of lands. It wants to cheat them into play, and it wants to play big mana things that do really busted stuff.
That was a lot of exposition and jargon.
That's what my deck wants to do. It wants to do a lot of really busted things by playing and cheating lands into play. And what happens is sometimes, like with this deck, there are cards that when a land enters the battlefield, you do something, which is really busted when you get like 3 or 4 triggers at the same time. So, yeah. So
I'm curious.
What?
I want to know something.
Oh boy. Am I blocking here? Probably, right? What's the point? Okay, so I want to play this. And get a swamp. And we'll play a fetch land. So here's what I was talking about with the fetch lands. So in paper, I would have to pick up like a 90-something card deck and shuffle it with this when I sacrifice this to get a land. Surveil is pretty much the same thing as scrying, but instead of putting it on the bottom of your library or the top of your library, you keep it on the top or you put it in the graveyard.
You mentioned that.
Well, I don't think we didn't run into Surveil. So end of their turn, I will sacrifice this Polluted Delta, and I will get a Surveil land of my own.
So out of the 8 billion people in the world, about 50 million play Magic.
I mean, Magic is a very popular game. casually and competitively. When this creature enters, you may sacrifice land. So I want that card. So we are playing. Oh well, let's see. Enters mill 3, return land, and creature +1/+1. And we will play this. Sacrifice this. Put. So this is. So we sacrificed a land, but we got to put 2 lands into play. So now we're like mana positive here. And we'll just try and jam for 1. So with Brawl, you start with 25 life rather than 20. So they're also playing like a landfall-ish deck. That's a really good card. That's a really good card.
Omnath, Locus of Creation.
3, 4, 5,
You get rogue monster.
6. Let's see.
Robot 1987.
We don't want to cast that yet. So we want to play this Lotus Cobra first because it gives us a mana. So we want a green. So we can then play Anissa, which is a Planeswalker. That's another card type. So they have these plus, see how it's +1 and -8, and it comes in with loyalty 5. So it has a passive thing wherever I tap a forest for mana, it adds an additional green mana. The +1, it puts 3 +1/+1 counters on a non-creature land I control, and I untap it, and it becomes a creature with haste. So I get to untap this forest, and I get to make it a creature, which is great, but it's also bad because if they had a removal spell, they can kill a land, which is a very powerful thing to do in Magic. So we're going to jam for 3. And it has Vigilance as well. Vigilance is where it doesn't tap when you attack. And Haste is when a creature can attack the turn it is played, which when you play a creature, it has Summoning Sickness, so it can't attack until the following turn. Forgot to mention that too.
Did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, I have. So I want to block. So I want this Nissa to live. So I'm gonna block here. Does this have trample? No, it's first strike. And I'm gonna block here. So Nissa won't be taking damage. Okay, that's a good card. So now it's an argument of, do I play this card now? It sucks, but it's good because I get to wipe their board, which their board is... That's a good card.
Not where I thought you were going with that.
So I think we just...
Swore you were about to say I get to wipe their butt.
Let's see here. If I play the Gitrog, does that do anything? No. Do this? Yeah, we just do that. So we're just going to destroy all creatures. We don't get the little bonus at the end. Oh no, we do get it. So we bring back the Lotus Cobra. And we +1, bring back a land. And I don't want to attack with the land. We just want to play this, because it allows us to do things. So with this Oracle of Maldea, I can play an additional land, and I play with the top of my library revealed, and I can play lands from the top of it. So I play a fetch land. So now with the Lotus Cobra, I get a mana from playing a land. I can play this as well. So I get another land, or I get another mana. So I have 3 mana in my pool. I can't play any more lands. So what I want to do is I want to fetch, which shuffles the top card, which I don't really want anyway. I can get that untapped, and I also get a mana. So now we can play this card, which mills, and then I get to put a land onto the battlefield, which I will put a fetch land. So things get a little more complex when you have like like there's a lot of triggers going on. Like that's what they're called. They're called triggers. Like with the Lotus Cobra, when I play a land, it triggers, adds a mana. When he plays a land, this thing triggers. So that's a good card. So we play this card to kill this because Omnath we don't want that sticking around. Then we can play. Oh, they just concede.
Homie knows what's up.
What?
I said homie knows what's up.
Yep, he knew he was dead. All right, and just for fun, let's go get a pack to open because we have enough gold to get a pack. So we'll get a pack of foundations. Oh, and we get a bonus pack. So with Magic Arena, with whatever current set is they're pushing foundations, every pack that you purchase, like whether it's with money or with the in-game currency of gems and gold, you get like a point. And when you get 8 points, I think. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. You get a free golden pack, which is just filled with rares. So let's see what we get. Anything good? Oh, we got a rare wild card. That's nice. Consuming Aberration. Not good. I don't know if that's good or not because it's brand new. Electro Duplicate. I don't know if that's good either. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good. And a Ral Crackling Whip. I don't know if that's good either, if I'm being honest.
Can I have the otter?
So we open the pack. Here's the commons and uncommons we get. Our rare is Banner of Kinship. That was anticlimactic. So I wonder if there's a jump-in event.
Hey, I gotta tell you something. I think you should just sit here and just buy them all night. Just sit here, just buy shit.
Is there a jump-in? I don't know. Jump-ins are like pre-builds. So if you were to download Magic Arena as a new player, they have these jump-in events where you play like a pre-made deck and you can win like cards. It's not very good, but you get to like learn. There's Foundations Jumpstart, so you can. It's the same thing, but with just Foundations cards. They have like color challenges where you play decks, and there's challenges that you can do. Apparently, I did them all, which I did not know I did, if I'm being honest. Then they have. You can play Sealed, which you get six packs. You get 6 packs. You open all 6, and then you just build a deck from 6 packs. That's another what they call limited format. Then there's drafts. You can play. There's Alchemy, which nobody plays. There's like events, like Explorer event. So you pay like gems or gold, and you play Explorer, and then as you win, you get gems, and you get like these packs. So if you just go undefeated and get 7 wins, you get play-in points to enter a qualifier. So if you're like what they call a grinder, where like Magic is your game and you are playing like competitive Magic, you would want to play like these for qualifiers, and because what they do is every so often they'll have like a tournament. So it's like the Magic, like the Arena Open. So it's Arena Open day 1. So you can, you pay a fee to enter, and then you play. And depending on your record, you can make day 2. So then you play in day 2, and you play, and if you lose X amount of times, you get knocked out. So I showed you the best of one formats. I don't know. Let me see if I mainly just play best of one because it's quick. Let's see if I have a deck with a sideboard. This has a sideboard enough. So we'll do one more round here, and I will show you what is. So we'll do Explorer play, best of 3, Rakdos mid-range. So the competitive way to play Magic is a best of 3 format. So you play 3 games, or if you win the first game and you win the second game, that's it. So you have your 60 card deck. You have a 15 card sideboard. So right with this deck, I have a 13 card sideboard because I didn't have the other 2 cards, and I didn't want to craft them. So with that, you play your first game, and after the first game, you go to sideboard. So you can look at your 15 cards, and you can put in a mixture of cards that may make your matchup better. And they can put in whatever cards that make their matchup better. Then you play the next game with these sideboard cards in. So naturally, you're going to have bad matchups with certain decks. Like if you're playing an aggro deck and they're playing a gain life deck, you're like, well, this is a bad matchup. You have sideboard cards for that make that a little bit better. So we'll just play the game here. Duress, we'll look at their hand, see what they have. There's only one card that I can choose from, so I can discard that. So this deck is a really powerful deck. So play this Blood Tithe Harvester. A blood token is there's a bunch of different tokens. Blood tokens, pay 1, discard a card, sacrifice it, and draw a card. So I know their hand except for 1 card. It's a bunch of lands. It's a 3-drop and an unknown. So I don't really want to cast this Thoughtseize and look at their unknown card. I want to play either this card or this card. So this is the card that I'm aiming towards because it's a powerful card. So, and I want to attack with it next turn. So as long as they don't have a removal spell, we are in great shape. So they're going to play their 3-mana creature, probably. Yep, which is fine. We have a removal spell for it, so perfect. So this card here, when it deals combat damage to a player, they lose half of their life. Really, really powerful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to destroy a creature with no counters on it. Just kill that. I'm just going to bash face. So now they go to 6, which is really good for us. Play this. We play this Thoughtseize to look at these 2 cards that I don't know about.
So I imagine by the 3rd game it's getting more difficult because they have an idea of what you have.
Kind of, yeah. So they know that they were done. So I don't really. So I can look back. They're playing a version of Greasefang, which I saw in their hand. So they're trying to discard the artifacts to put it back into play and basically combo. So Ley Line of the Void is a very good card against that. So it says if a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it. So if I start the game with this, I can put it on the battlefield for free. So it just immediately, they're like, oh, cool, if I discard those cards that I want to discard, it exiles, and I can't do what my deck wants to do. So we're going to bring some number of those in, probably 2. So what cards in here are not good in this matchup? So destroy target non-artifact creature that kills the Greasefang. Heartless Act kills Greasefang. Duress might be not great. So we're going to get rid of the Duresses. Because they're playing creatures, Duress doesn't hit creatures, and if we're hitting the cards that they want discarded, that's bad for us. So we look at these. So here's another example. Exile all graveyards. So if we don't hit this, we have this as well. So we can bring that in as a 2 of. So it can destroy a permanent mana value 1 or less, which it might hit a Stitcher Supplier if they play that card, and then it's also a creature when it finishes. So I want to take out some number of Thought Seizes because I don't really want to target their hand as aggressively. All the rest of these cards, I think I could probably go without putting them in. Like, there's another removal spell. I don't really think I need it. A board wipe, that's basically for the aggro matchup because it's a 3 mana destroy everything. And it's low mana value cards. So, Virtue of Persistence, it kills something, gains a life, and then I can cast it for 7, where I can put creatures into whatever. So I'm not really looking to do that either. So I think we've pretty much brought in the cards we wanted to bring in that make this matchup even better for us, which I don't think it was bad in the first place. So we have... Oh, they just concede, so it doesn't matter. So basically, do you see, like, we bring in cards that make sense to bring in, and then we take cards out that make the matchup bad. So, like, I'll just bring up that deck so I can finish, like, explaining. So the way that we were sideboarding was we took out 2 Thoughtseize, we took out 2 Duress. Where's our sideboard? Oh, here. We had that in. Oh, I just removed it from my sideboard. Shit. So decks. So we took out Thoughtseizes because with that deck we were playing against, taking cards out of their hand benefits them to an extent. Now, Thoughtseize is more powerful or is more utility because we can use it to hit their Greasefang, so we don't have to rely on removal spells. We can just remove it from their hand so they can't play it, so it just takes the namesake card out of their hand. Duress doesn't hit that. It hits the cards that they want discarded. So 2 spots in our 60-card deck are bad. So we take those out for cards that are good. So Leyline of the Void, which exiles cards. This enchantment, it's called a Saga. So each upkeep, those level up. So it goes to the next chapter. So when you play it, it goes to the first chapter, which you destroy something with mana value 1 or less. Chapter 2, you exile all graveyards, so that includes yours. It doesn't matter. And then the third chapter is you exile it, and you put it back as this creature. So the creature, it just gives you a free creature, which is nice. It's a little bonus. This was a card. This was an option. It's just a card advantage engine, which we don't really need, or we didn't need. Like I said, the sweepers we didn't need because it's not what we are looking to do against them. And that card just didn't make sense. So we took this card out, and we took 2 Thoughtseize out. So our discard outlets, we took those 2 out, and we put in what are called hate cards. Okay. So the Leyline is what would be the heavier hate card because it doesn't allow them to play their main game plan. Now, the disadvantage of sideboarding in that way is if I sideboard for that, but they're going to sideboard out of their original game plan. So what they're going to do is they're going to think that I'm sideboarding the way that I'm sideboarding. So they're like, okay, he's going to bring in ley lines. He's going to bring in, graveyard hate, which is, so I'm going to take out the parts that interact with my graveyard and side in cards that don't interact with my graveyard. So now my hate cards are a little less hateful. So there's like this give and take there.
Fuller, easy on the Pepsi.
All right, so we'll exit that now.
Exit. I think exit should be like spelled E-G. X-I-T.
So you've seen some of the intricacies of Magic. You've seen the gameplay. What do you think?
I mean, I never disagreed with you that it's very entailed.
Yeah.
I think it's borderline excessive, but if people enjoy it, I think it's great. I mean, I'm not like going home to download the app, but you know, for me, it's a bit much.
What makes you look at it and say it's a bit much? Like, what do you mean by it's a bit much? Like, it can be like, it hurts my brain because there's a lot of things going on that I don't understand, or is it there's a lot that goes into it that maybe that is unnecessary?
More so the latter piece. I mean, it doesn't really hurt my brain, and like I didn't really have a hard time understanding all the stuff that you were putting together and explaining.
Mm-hmm.
Articulating all that, like, it's fairly, like, the concept, as long as the concepts are defined, they're easy to grasp. I just think that there are an overwhelming number of different concepts within the game to keep track of.
Sure, yeah.
Where, like, for me personally, and I'm not saying this is everybody, obviously it's not if it has 50 million players, but when I, like, even if I'm in, like, a analytical, strategic puzzle game mood, I don't want to go that far. Like, because I almost feel like I have to spend time outside of playing the game, studying the game, learning all of the different cards, learning how they, you know, go together and how to build the decks and the different types of decks that you can have and how you play them in order to even have a competitive chance to be able to, one, identify what I'm playing against, two, understand that after I identify what I'm playing against, how they're going to play because of the strategy on their end,
Mm-hmm.
and then three, how my deck aligns with that. It's just like, you know, I sit down, and we keep comparing it to chess. I played chess a whole hell of a lot as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was like super nerd in middle school, so I was in chess club and all that shit. But like, you sit down at chess, you've got 16 pieces, 8 of them are the same damn thing. There's a lot there. Like, kids look at chess today and they're like, but why does the pawn attack diagonally and can't move diagonally? And I'm like, that's the rules. But I want to attack straight on. No, that's not the rules. But it attacks diagonally. That's the fucking rules. Give me the damn queen.
So the beautiful thing to me about Magic is, from a outside perspective, like, you don't really have experience with the game. You haven't played it like at length.
No.
So you just see like what I'm explaining to you, and I've been playing the game for I'd say a solid 15 years, or maybe like 10 years, give or take.
More than 10 years.
So
More than 10 years.
So I also played it at a competitive level, like where we would go to a local game store, and we had a group of friends that we all, you know, played what's called Friday Night Magic every Friday. It'd be like 6:00 in the evening. We'd be have our standard decks because it was standard format, and we would play like a Swiss tournament. And whoever won the shop, like, you had prize payouts. So we would play Magic, and then after that, we would just, like, open packs or trade or play more Magic or whatever. And we played heavily, so we'd go to Baltimore and we even traveled to Charlotte, North Carolina to play in these big open tournaments. So you'd pay, like $50 for entry, and you'd get like a play mat, you get some goodies, and then you played in the main tournament. And if you, so it was a 2-day tournament. So you played day one. If you ended with a record that was like X wins and 2 losses, you would make day 2. If you lost 3 rounds, you couldn't make day 2. So if you didn't make day 2, they had side events. They're called win-a-boxes. So there's Commander, there's Legacy, there's Modern, there's all these side events that you can play. There's just a ton, where if you can just go, like, a lot of people will grind those. So like the side events, you get less high level players. You still have like the ones that just made a bad deck choice and they just whiffed and they're like, I'm gonna go grind side events and just win boxes because I can outplay everybody. So people just go and they win boxes, and then they'll sell those boxes for money, and then they'll use that money to buy expensive cards that they need for decks or whatever. But we would go down to Baltimore, and we'd drive down and we'd play Magic all day long, and then we would come home, and if somebody made day 2, like maybe we go down the second day.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely got a following.
Yeah. So we like, I played competitively. I put a lot of time into it via like playing with the play group that I had, playing at the shop that I would go to, having a buddy come over where we would just sit and play matchups. I would watch Magic. Like, I've always had this like love for Magic, of the competitive side of it, like knowing what decks are in the format, having the knowledge of different builds and what the decks are doing, how to disrupt those game plans, what decks are the top decks of the format, what decks are best to like what off-meta picks are best. If everybody's playing this deck, I'm going to play this deck and try and just crush everybody because I can, like, this deck has a better matchup. Or you have these outliers that are, like, nobody's expecting. So a big thing in tournament Magic is you have the best deck. So there's always a best deck that's on everybody's radar. So if you're going to the tournament, you expect to see this deck and in high numbers. So what a lot of people do is they try and play this deck, which counteracts this deck. In choosing that, they take a lot of their sideboard slots for this deck matchup. So this deck that's on the outside of the format that gets hated out a ton, all these decks are dropping their sideboard slots to combat the best deck. Now this outlier is just like, ho, it's my time to shine, baby. You're all trying to go against this thing and you're taking all your sideboard slots for it. Like, this outlier is just going to go in and just wipe the floor because it wasn't on anybody's radar. It has like insane matchups, and if you don't have sideboard slots for it, you just lose. So there's so much that goes into the game, but really it's what you want to put into the game. Like if you, or if Alicia wanted to pick up and play Magic, you don't have to have the knowledge and the little intricate details that I have, that I look at when I'm playing Magic, because it's not about that. It's about playing a deck that you want to play that sounds fun to you and just going and battling. So like maybe a constructed format isn't what you want to do. Maybe limited is more attractive to you, where you want to draft. So it's like, oh, I don't have meta decks. I just draft these cards out of these packs, and I just build my own deck. And I look at these cards, and I like put them together, and they all sync. They're all in sync with each other, and like some people can just see that, and they can just make it come together, and then they just go and crush, and you build a collection that way.
Yeah, I mean,
or you can play Brawl, which is a non-competitive, like it's not a competitive format. Like there are decks, but you can build the deck 1,000 different ways with 1,000 different cards, whatever you want to, and then you can just play. And if you're not having fun, you can just concede and move on to the next match. Or if you play against a sweaty tryhard, you can just be like, yeah, on to the next.
I don't do that. We're not doing that. I will die on this hill. They say every dog has their day. I think that really applies to also, like every man has his thing, and it's your thing. That is very apparent.
It's been my, like, I have this. There are 2 games that I have a on and off relationship with, and I have a lot of knowledge of. It is Magic the Gathering, and it is old school RuneScape. Those 2 games, like, when I play them hard.
He's in that stage right now.
I haven't been playing Magic that much recently because I've been playing the Pokemon TCG Pocket, which is, it's fun. I'm waiting to see what they do with that.
Yep, I knew you were going to get stuck on that thing.
And we've been rewatching Yellowstone, so we've been watching that. And with old school RuneScape, like, I haven't played it in a hot minute, but if I were to sit down one night and play that, it all comes back to me. I remember all this stuff, and I'm just like, well, we're back on the grind. It's just games that, like, I don't quit them. I just take breaks. But
no, you don't.
The back to, like, the beauty of Magic, and like it is what you make it. Like, for the average player, like, a lot that like attracts them to Magic is they can play Commander, and everybody, like, has their thing. It's like, oh, that guy's what, like, it's like couples that get together and have, like, dinner together, and they sit around a table and play Magic. Like, Commander is a multi-person game. It's a 4-person game. So you can have, like, a double date, and if everybody likes to play a little bit of Magic casually, you have your Commander decks. You can just play Commander.
I love you.
And everybody can play.
I love you. But that's like 0.1%
Dude,
of America.
It's more popular than you would think because it's what they call a kitchen table format. You can just have people over and play it at your kitchen table.
Well, yeah.
And it's so like, you can make it as casual as you want it.
So is poker. So is rummy. I mean, like, so is go fucking fish.
Yeah, like, if you have your buddy who is just like, dude, I love playing zombies. I love digging through the Magic library and finding all the cards that are zombies, and I like putting them in my deck and seeing what works and what doesn't. And his girlfriend is like, I love elves, and I go through the local shop's binder and I find an elf card every time I go there, and I pull it out and I buy it, or I buy the pretty foils and I put them in my deck, and it's all these, like, pretty alternate arts and foils that if a competitive player looked at it would be like, those cards are fucking terrible. I would never play those cards. It can be very casual and it can be very competitive, or it can be middle of the road.
It doesn't even have to be a game.
Yeah, it doesn't even. You can just collect.
That's the thing with trading cards is you can trade them, you can play with them, you can do both.
Yeah.
I think it's. I mean, it's. To me, it kind of, like, in a weird, odd way. This is probably gonna, like, set you into a tirade, but it's like a very complicated spin on Pokemon. Except, I think this was earlier.
Yeah, Magic came out in, I think, 93,
I think that's about right. And there are differences, but like at the end of the day, trading card game is a trading card game. You can collect it, you can play it, you can do both. And they're popular. They are very popular because it involves both aspects. Like baseball cards, you're not gonna like.
There was ways that you could play, like games with baseball cards.
Yes, mathematic. Well, you could take players from different teams and stuff and make your own team, and then you would essentially do your lineup, and then using the stats from a particular year, you would select a year at random and see who had like the higher batting average, and then figure out based on the batting average, okay, how many hits did they get this game, and who's on base, and it was super math. That's actually how sabermetrics kind of became a thing.
Yeah.
Because people were like playing with these in weird ways like that. Not to say weird's bad, but that's kind of peculiar if you sit down and say, I want to figure out a fucking statistic. But yeah, so there were ways you could do that. But it wasn't like designed where like you could, put them into battle and you were like head to head like that. It required you to actually create a game for it from what was available on the card. I think it's awesome. I just don't think it's like really for me. I would do it. I'd suck at it.
I think it's a thing of if you don't have experience with it and it's you're very fresh to it and you see like what I just showed you, or you sit down and you're watching people play it, it's very intimidating and it's very just like, oh my god, there's so many things that are going on. Like I could never do that. Like I can see how somebody could look at the game and be like, yeah, there's no way.
Intimidating is, I think, for a lot of people, a good word.
Overwhelming too. It could...
Overwhelming is closer. Like I don't know. I just looked at it and I was like, I don't have that kind of time to invest, because I know that for me personally, like me, knowing me, who I am, I'm going to want to get to know how it works. I'm going to want to get to do it, and I'm going to like invest in it because I want, if you do something, you do it right. And if you're not going to do it right, you don't fucking do it. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like,
yeah, I
don't have the time to do that right. I'll just sit here and watch you and have fun and commentate like I'm from Scotland.
Yeah, it's very daunting to...
That's the best word yet. It is
to see it and be like, oh my god, like there's a lot, like if you're playing Pioneer or Explorer, like they're friendlier formats to like spend a little bit of time in, play, and be like, okay, like I get it, I understand it. And to play it on a digital platform like in Arena, it's tougher because then like if you choose to play meta decks, like you have to have the cards, and to get the cards you have to spend money or just get very lucky with opening packs, which there's a lot of junk rares and a lot of bulk.
So is Arena actually from the same company that does the cards?
Yeah, Wizards. Yep.
Okay, so they need to figure out a way with their next series of cards to do like an embedded thing, so you can take your real cards and scan them.
That would
not like literally scan them.
That would be beautiful. Yeah.
Like you remember the little amiibos they did for yeah, like you had the amiibos. If they put like an RFID loop in the next series of Magic cards and just had a reader where you could like read that card, and each card had its own unique signature, and then it just put it right into your collection.
That'd be so sick. They'll never do it because it's just money out of their pocket.
Well, I mean,
because when you're buying Magic cards, you're not buying cards from Wizards. You're buying cards from the local shop.
The local shop bought them from Wizards.
Yes, but then when you're buying singles, you're not buying singles from Wizards. You're buying singles from the shop. They didn't pay for those singles. Well, they did, but they didn't get them from Wizards.
At some point, Wizard got paid for that card.
So basically, like the store the store will order X amount of boxes or cases.
Right.
That's them paying Wizards for their product.
Yep.
They have boxes that they'll sell to sell individual packs,
Right.
or they will open product so that they have singles to sell.
Right.
So if they're opening packs and they open a $50 card or they open a $100 card, Wizards doesn't get paid for that. They just get paid what the guy paid for the boxes or the cases.
Yeah, and I mean that's
So,
all.
but if I am building one of the decks that I had on there, and I go into a shop and I buy all the cards that I need to build that deck, then Wizards didn't make money on that. Whereas if I needed to build that deck on Arena, I have to go in and I have to open packs until I get wild cards or pull the cards that I need, and then I can build the deck on there. So I'm spending money directly into their ecosystem, whereas I'm just going to buy it from Joe Schmo down the road or buying it on eBay.
No, I see what you're
So
saying.
it's taking a lot of money out of their pocket.
I see what you're saying. Well,
It benefits the player, definitely, because then like the biggest battle between like very high level competitive players is you need to have a digital collection and you need to have a physical collection. So a lot of these like very high level players that like have tournament results and are usually making top eights or have putting up results, they either have sponsorships by like these big retail sellers like Channel Fireball, Star City Games, TCG Player, Cool Stuff Inc., to name a few, and then they have sponsorships from like Ultimate Guard or Ultra Pro, Dragon Shield for like sleeves. So you get like some stuff, and like a lot of these people will play like they'll represent Channel Fireball, and if they are like, hey, I want to play Rakdos midrange at the Open. Basically, what Channel Fireball does is they go through their massive amount of cards that they have, and they just build the deck for them and be like, here, just give it back to us at the end.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't really. So I was gonna say it doesn't really like take the money out of their pocket. I understand what you're getting at with that, though. It doesn't ever put it there because
Yeah,
as Wizard, you kind of have to assume that okay, there's going to be a card in here that's going to be worth more. We're selling 100,000. Just it's more than that, but so in understanding that some of these cards are worth $50 and some of them are literally worth pissing in a toilet, what is the correct price to set for this?
Yeah. And a lot of the issue that like okay, so when I started like really getting back into Magic after taking a very long break, that's when I started playing at the local shop, started playing Standard. It was during the release of Theros. So there was like the Greek god, basically, like type of sets. It was Born of the Gods, Theros, forget Dragon's Maze. There was a couple other sets that were in Standard at the time, but their rotations were much different than they are now for Standard, and like how they released their sets. The way that Wizards releases their sets now, dude, I could never in a million years keep up with the releases that they put out. Because here's what they do. They have the set that comes out. So they have the set, and then they have what's called Universes Beyond. So it's a mini set, usually a crossover. So it's like Magic the Gathering and Final Fantasy, and it has Final Fantasy characters on Magic cards. Or Magic the Gathering meets Marvel, or Doctor Who, or Assassin's Creed, or
Fortnite model.
They do these crossover sets. Then they have what's called a secret layer, where they do it's like a limited release, and they do special art for whatever cards they choose. So they did a secret layer for Ghostbusters, Chucky. They did a bunch of like secret layers for like benefits, and they just did one for some like Japanese like singer or something. Then they have they have the set releases. They have commander decks. Like it's like the amount of product that they put out in a short amount of time is absolutely ridiculous. It's so insane.
That's the best way to do it.
It's so insane.
You just keep the like
They just foot on the gas, just push out as many sets as we can throw at them. They'll buy it.
if you can generate fear of missing out, you will have no problem selling anything.
Yeah. So like being disconnected from like that aspect of Magic has made me like really enjoy the game that much more, because I don't have this feeling of like I need to keep up, or I need to keep spending all this money to get all these things, and like dude, it's insane.
That's
Like,
you anyway.
a lot of people complain about it because it is like you have to pick and choose, and you're just like, well, do I want to get a box of the new set, or do I want to get this secret layer so I can have like Assassin's Creed cards in my commander deck?
Public service announcement. Life requires choices. At some point, you got to make one. Just like I'm making the choice to go get a fish sandwich in 2 minutes. So, thank you for sharing it with me, though. I do appreciate it.
There was something else I wanted to say.
Oh God.
We were fuck.
Ooh.
We kind of got off the. We went on like a tangent a bit.
What was it related to?
Oh, like if you were to sit down with me casually sometime, and I just put a deck in your hands and it was just like, let's play a couple of games, and we just like, it all depends on how you're introduced to the game. Like actually playing the game for yourself.
This is starting to get weird.
Is what
yes.
either draws you in, or you're just like, it's not for me.
Yes, I would. I know what you're asking. Yes, I would. On the condition that we play chess on air first.
See, we would have to do like a browser chess or something, because that would be a weird, like we'd have to have a dual camera, like one above, and then
We don't need to know Bobby Fischer shit.
Another thing about the like playing Magic Online is, before Magic Arena came around, there still is. It's Magic Online. So it's basically you have a collection on Magic Online. You can buy like the actual product that you can buy in paper, you can buy for there. And you can buy singles from people and etc.
Can I say it? Can I say it?
Say what?
Who the fuck knew?
But what people have done is they've made whole companies that are rental like subscriptions. So there's a thing, Card Hoarder does it, and Mana Traders is another big one. So you pay, there's tiers. So it's like $10 a month gets you X amount of value to rent cards. Like $15 a month or $20 a month gets you this amount of value to rent cards.
That's ridiculous.
And $30 a month gets you as many cards as you could possibly rent. Like, it's for the people that are either content creators in the Magic space or heavy grinders, because Magic Online is the place to play and grind. Like, they have Magic qualifiers, they have small tournaments and stuff. Like, you earn I forget what they're called, but you earn these things if you like win a tournament or you top top 4 or top 8, and when it's time for like to qualify for like the big tournaments, you can qualify based off of your like, I guess, Magic Online profile ish.
I'll be curious to see when AI enters Magic Online.
It'd be interesting.
It won't take long for that thing to extrapolate every possible scenario and know exactly what to do.
Yeah, there was a free app that I don't know if it's still there. It was called Cockatrice, where it had every card in its database, and you could build any deck that you wanted, and you could just go on their servers and play whatever format you wanted, play whatever deck that you wanted, and there was always somebody to play. It was fucking fantastic, dude. But yeah, it's one of the biggest competitive games like in the world in terms of like card games, obviously. I mean, it's no League of Legends or Dota or Counter-Strike, but it is a very, very, very popular game. It can be as casual as you want it. It can be as competitive as you want it. You can play it all. You can play it strictly on your phone. You can play it strictly on your PC. You can play it strictly in paper. Whatever the case may be, if you have a play group, that's great. If you don't have a play group and you just play online like me, that's great too. And
this is how legends are made.
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. There's a story that I wanted to tell you. So, we used to travel to like the surrounding areas. So like we'd go to like New Holland to a local game store, and they'd have like IQs, which was the invitational qualifiers. So you would play tournaments at these stores, and they would happen usually on Saturdays. So we'd all travel, like be like, oh, you going to the IQ on Saturday? Yeah, man, we'll meet you there. So we'd all, from our local game store, we'd go to these other like less local game stores. And I like part of having a trading card game in paper is like you can trick out your deck. Like you could foil it out. You could get alternate arts. You could there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. What I really liked is getting Japanese versions of cards because
I'm shocked.
They look so sweet. So I was playing a combo. It was a combo deck, or it was more of a toolbox type deck. So there was a lot of like little intricate things. It was Knight of the Reliquary, like land combo. So I sat down across from like a 12 to 14-year-old kid, roughly. And he knew Magic and played, but he wasn't super knowledgeable. So I'd say probably 50% of my deck was Japanese and 50% was in English.
I know where this is going.
So I sat down and I played a Japanese card, like a fetch land, fetched, got a Japanese shock land. He knew what the lands are easy to understand. And then I played what's called a mana dork. So it's just a 1/1 or a 0/1, and you tap it for mana. So you're accelerating your mana. And he knew what it was. And then I played Knight of the Reliquary, which was Japanese. And he was just like, "What's that card do?" And then I had to explain what the card did. It's it gets bigger for every land that's in my graveyard or whatever. And I can tap it and search for a land, or tap it, sacrifice a land, search for a land. I think that's what Knight of the Reliquary. It's been a while, and I had to explain it. So as I was explaining the cards that I would play, it weirdly made me second guess. Is that what that card does? Even though I knew what the card did, him asking made me second guess it. So I was just like, stop. Like, I just wanted to be like, stop asking me because I know what my cards do. But I had to be respectful and be like, yep, this is what this card does. But then it, like, messed with my head of, like, is that what that card does? I'm pretty sure.
Well, it's fucking Japanese. How the hell's he gonna know? Like, he was probably sitting there like, are you fucking kidding me?
At these events, you would have, like, they would be wizard, like, official judges. Like, not from Wizards to put there from Wizards, but they, like, you got put in, like, a program, and, like, you took basically, like, tests to
They put
prove
people in
your
the program.
to prove your knowledge, that you know what you're talking about, you know the rules and stuff like that. So if there was a discrepancy between a group of players, they'd call judge, and they'd come over. You could privately pull them away from the table and be like, "Hey," and ask them a rules question about, like, a play, like, where you're like, "Okay, if I play this card, does it interact this way or does it not?" And then they say, like, yes, it does, or no, it doesn't. And then you go back to the table and be like, okay, well, that changes my line then. I'm going to play this way instead. Or, like, there's, like, little things that happen, like, I bumped my deck and the top card of my library fell on the table. You have to call a judge to be like, hey, I knocked my deck, top card fell on, like, can we just put it back on top of the library? And they're like, yeah. And then they, like, there's no way that I was trying to cheat. It was an accident. All players are satisfied, whatever. So, like, he had to call a judge multiple times to make sure I was telling him, like, the card was correct. And it got me away from, like, building my deck.
You lost,
of
didn't
Japanese cards. No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't win. I didn't top 8 that tournament, but I did win that round.
No toppy.
So, like, yeah, right here. Like, it's all in Japanese.
Yeah, you can read that.
I would show the camera, but it's not going to focus.
I've been showing the camera all night. Nobody bothered.
But it's the most simple card. It's counterspell. So 2 blue, counter target spell.
Yeah. Who the fuck knew?
So I have decided that if I play Paper Magic, I just play these in my land slot, and it satisfies. Like, those are sweet. Nice, shiny card, Japanese, and it has, like, the Japanese, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rising Sun.
Well, it has, like scenery, like, shit, I don't know.
It's Oriental themed.
Kind of. It was.
That probably wasn't very sensitive to say.
Yeah, that's Magic. You've survived. How do you feel?
I mean, survival's a bit of a reach, but
That was a very easy, like, that's another thing, too, is, like, when we do these episodes.
oh, fuck no.
When we do these episodes, like, where we, like, sit down and we play a game and we, like, discuss it, like, this was a very easy thing to do where, like, I won't even, like, really have to edit much of this because it's literally just explain Magic, play Magic, talk about it after the fact.
I think I said maybe a paragraph. I think that's by design. I think he's trying to tell me something.
I'm trying to tell you, you little bitch.
Maybe.
But they're, like, in the trading card game, like, world, I like TCGs, like Magic and Pokemon, like, because I have history with both of them. But I downloaded the app to play, to try and play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. And I played, like, the intro, like, where it teaches you, like, the game, basically, and I was like, I don't have any interest in this.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's just, I don't really like it.